Fix it with fire, baby. Is that a cow?
After you do that, you should be able to lift this back in.
Oh, Unibody's in.
It's in. Let's do this thing.
What's the first steps, bud?
Well, the first step is we're gonna finish cutting that crown Vic apart and getting it trimmed to where we think we need it. Then after that, we'll start by probably cutting Firewall out of this truck as much as I hate to, and then taking the dash out as much as I hate to, and then cutting bed loose and maybe stiffening some things up before we do all that, because we don't want to take too much of its structural integrity out before we have it up in the air and it's going to bend in half. But that is the to-do list. Just a lot more cutting, and then once we get done cutting, we'll actually get to the more fun part of welding. And once we start welding, you know that we've made it. And then once we've made it, you know how the saying goes.
You're going to be taking all the wiring out of the trunk and moving it up front into the back seats, basically. And there is a fuel tank right here that is above the axle in the back, and we are going to be making a cut that's going to go across here and then down, and you'll see it later in the video. But right now we are going to be focusing on getting the wire into the back seats and taking out this evaporator, also marking all the wiring too. And then we're also going to get this ABS pump out of here marked up. Always be sure to get your grounds as well, because those are very important. Makes the car run. If you don't have your grounds, just like what happened in the last video, just these two grounds in the front, well, in the back seat, if you didn't even have those on, it wouldn't even start. So be sure to get your grounds, be sure to mark them, be sure to mark all your wires. And so after I am done with that, basically the whole backside from the fuel tank and everything is just going to come off. There should be some bolts that hold the bumper and the backside onto the frame, so we'll undo those and just take everything off. And then after that, I'm going to unbolt the seats, start taking up the carpet, and take off the fenders, everything else. And while I am doing that, Sean is going to be taking the cab from the frame of the truck. And so that's what we are going to be doing today.
Don't mind the air compressor, but I have all of these guys labeled, and I'm getting ready to unbolt all of them and just shove them back there.
Very easy process. Process that's going to be hard is basically cutting out everything and dismantling it, but it's actually easier than an engine swap. So also mentioning an engine swap, have you checked out the Cummins project that we had? You should go check out that video. Click up to the link, either right or left of the screen, and watch that video.
Alright, to get the Evap out of here, you gotta go under the car. There's two bolts right there, and it slides out. It looks like it is not a 14, but it is a 12. Never mind, it might be 11.
It's an 11, by the way.
One rusty boy. Never mind, they're rusted on there. Okay, so I got all the wires from the back of the trunk labeled, and now they're all up in the back seat. And so now it's time to start cutting. So I already marked out with Sharpie on where they need to go. You can't really see it with the black paint, but you take a Sawzall and go across here, and then we're gonna make a grinder cut so where it's at those angles, and we're gonna make the Sawzall all the way over here, all the way to the back, grinder cut it there again, and all the way down, and same on that side. And when you're doing this, be sure to miss
the gas and the lines all up in there. Okay, I grinded those tabs down. Just kind of flopped out of that holder right there. Well, I had to pull it a little bit. So after you cut this thing out, there's going to be 2 bolts on each side of the frame that are holding this back end in. You're going to have to unbolt those. It's a 13mm. Grab your extension, your ratchet, something to pry on because they're pretty torqued in there. After you do that, you should be able to lift this back end off.
We're back in the main shop. Here is the down low for my portion of this. Alex is finishing up the cutting of the Vic and explaining how to do all that. Very exciting. So that being said, as you can see, we already have a Crown Vic subframe on this frame. We just did that to move it because we had it laying around. What I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be cutting the firewall along that portion right there, right underneath that the cowl, cutting all the way down there, and then we're going to cut the floor out because this floor in this truck is not very pretty. Of course, I got to do some cleaning. The floor is basically gone, so we're going to use the Crown Vic floor, which is kind of a blessing in disguise, and that way we don't have to do much welding on it. Steering wheel column's going to come out, probably reuse that in another project. Sadly, this dash has to come out. I don't know how we're going to do that. I really don't want to cut it because I love these dashes so much. You're going to watch me basically cut apart this poor truck. It's going to have a better life on top of a Vic, and it's going to be driven a heck of a lot more than it has in years. After the portion of cutting the floor, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to cut this whole bed floor out, but after I clean it, of course. So after the bed floor is out, it'll be time to maybe start thinking about setting the Vic on top. Now, other than this unibody, another one on YouTube, I can't remember the guy's tag, but he did a fantastic job. He used the dash and everything, and he did an absolutely amazing job getting the wire and taking all this time. And but this right here is, we're trying to do this kind of in a speedy way because I kind of want this truck done for the last part of this car season, and then we'll maybe think about putting this dash back in next year and, you know, doing that route. But that's what's up. That's what's going to go on, and I'll keep you updated along the way. Fix it with fire, baby. Well, I had to section out a little piece because I wanted to see if this dash was welded in or if it was maybe by chance bolted in. I'm pretty sure it's spot welded into place, which really sucks because I did not want to cut this beautiful dash, but it's looking more and more inevitable. Yeah. We're gonna continue on. Gotta cut the rest of that out. I might just do it in sections. Might do that floor section next because that way I can get at it. As you can see, it's so rusted out that I don't even have to undo that body mount. And then that rear section, I might have to patch that so it doesn't bend in half. That's about where we're at right now.
Yeah, I'm always on the go, on the go. Amazing, trailblazing. I won't let you tell me no. Tell me no. See, I was born in the city where the sun don't.
Okay, update on the cutting. So on these unibodies, they like to rust out right behind that fuel tank or right under it because there's a main body mount there. So we're going to have to address that when the time comes. What I want to address right now though is that as soon as I cut this all apart, there's not going to be really anything holding this firewall or slash this main support to the bottom part where I'm actually going to leave to set on top of the Vic chassis. So right now I'm going to weld a couple little tiny supports in there, so 1x1 square steel, come back later and then I'll box it in. So it's not really too much of a worrisome item. Got a quick fix on the cab, that way she does not pretty much compress and then the door doesn't fit right. So right now we got a pretty clean body line, so if that would have collapsed, this would have brought up, then door would never fit right ever again. So that's just a preliminary fix. Yes, it is angled, prove you that it's supposed to be angled. There you go, there's a stock one. Now we are good there. Good to keep moving and cutting on the driver's side.
Sad day.
We lost it to laziness. But anyway, there's not many unibodies these guys do this on, the full swap. So we're pretty much a guinea pig. The last guy I watched, he left his dash like I already said in the video. At this point right now, it's been like about like any other F100 swap. Shh, hummingbird! Quiet! Anyway, so we got this. The whole cab is done, basically ready to get put on. We're obviously gonna have to do some trimming as we get closer to putting the Vic on. As of right now, I think that's gonna be pretty darn close to where we want it. We'll make our mounts off of that back cab support. So next thing I'm gonna be doing is gonna be cutting basically 3/4 of this bed out. As you can see in Alex's videos, he left that Humpty Dumpty, and he left that because we need it. That's where the gas tank mounts. Next thing I'm gonna do, cut this out, and then I got 2 body mounts back here, 2 body mounts there, and we're ready to bring her up in the air for the night.
Every time the pressure's on, crawls out of the sea. You're gonna need somebody like me. When your brother's got blood in the streets, you better call somebody like me. I was made in the shadows, where the light ain't allowed to go. When the line gets a little blurry, you're gonna need somebody like me. Better call somebody like me, 'cause you want somebody like me. When the line gets a little blurry, gonna need somebody like me. When the monster crawls out of the sea, you're gonna need somebody like me. When your brother's got blood in the streets, you better call somebody like me. I was made in the shadows, where the light ain't allowed to go. When the line gets a little blurry, we're gonna need somebody like me. Better call somebody like me, 'cause you want somebody like me. When the lines get a little blurry, we're gonna need somebody like me.